Hello and welcome to this edition of the show. Today's special guest is Show-Lucas Shaffer.
Hello.
Lucas, appreciate you coming on the show.
Lucas, thank you for coming, sir.
I appreciate it.
I'm your host, Brian Mallor. We got Tim over there behind the console. He runs everything.
That's the yeah, that's the word.
If you saw the picture on Facebook, he is the man behind the show. So, Tim, tell us a little bit. You've got some information and stuff that Lucas works on.
I told Brian right when we first went on, Lucas is a very, or should I say Mr. Shaffer?
Either way.
Oh, there
Whatever
you go. Lucas is a very interesting individual. I wanted to, if you guys, first of all, if you've ever watched the show Shark Tank or The Prophet, or you see anything with all these entrepreneurs,
right.
Lucas is an entrepreneur in the truest sense. And I kind of wanted to give a list of the companies that he is currently going.
Yes.
And for all of you that don't get fooled by the beard, he has done a TED Talk in August, in Augusta. So he has done Filmaholics.net. He has done the Better Beard Company. He has done Photoblog.com, ProjectSocial.org, Datterday.com. He is the head of Shaffer Labs. He is a co-founder of Hack Columbus and currently the creative director at Stand and Stretch. And people are going, what is that? I'll let these guys go in detail. So
we will find out. And the list goes on. Tim just read like the first, part of the list. After a while, your eyes just get blurry. Man's got a lot going on. So Lucas, let's go ahead and start off. Tell me, where were you born?
So I was born in Columbus, Georgia, at the Medical Center.
Fun.
1980. So, yeah.
What'd your parents do?
My father was an entrepreneur. My mother also worked in food services at Fort Benning. So for a large part of my childhood, I learned a lot about how to earn money, and I spent a lot of time thinking about what I was going to do in my life. I think everyone kind of does at one point.
So now, tell me some of the things that your father was involved in.
Yeah, that's really cool. When he first got started, when he retired military in '79, so he immediately had me. I think that's one of the first things. And then went into general repair business. He owned a company called Southern Comfort, and they did HVAC heating and
that.
It was back in the 80s. He didn't have the business long. I think he actually went bankrupt when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And so when you're 8 years old and you have to move, because that's technically what was explained to the 8-year-old Lucas.
Right.
You grow up and you find out that, oh, no, the business had failed, and a lot of things that come up from that. And as you're being an entrepreneur, you say, well, why did it fail?
Right.
How to prevent it. But at that time, he had made a shift into solar panels.
Interesting.
Yeah, this was in about 86, 87, made a big run at it, got a lot of money from the banks, which is partly the reason why he had to do what he had to do. Yeah. And it just wasn't right for solar panels.
Right.
Very interesting. There's a lot of thoughts going in my head about taking the second generation of Southern Comfort to solar panels.
Interesting.
Yeah, he needed the current president sitting in office.
Right.
He would have had them all.
He'd have cleaned up, baby.
Well, back then, you might have recognized kiosk in Columbus Square Mall where they had guys in suits and these big old solar panels, looked like baby pools, out in the middle of the floor, and they would demo them. And huge business in installation, not a lot in selling the product because it was so expensive.
I remember that. I actually worked in Columbus Square Mall back that time. I remember. Wow. I never knew that was your dad.
Got some old pictures. He went in business with my a man on my mother's side, and shortly after trying to put that investment in there and try to get that started, I just you think about business sometimes. The idea is that solar panels are just not ready yet.
Right.
It was. I still see the houses sometimes when I drive by with the older panels up there. They've got the 12-foot, they're 12-foot tall. They look like a sandbox with a shiny top. You still see them, and that was a part of what he was doing right at the end there. Most of his business was based on air conditioning, and in the South, it's a lucrative business.
Air conditioning is the way to go, and he was ahead of his time though. Looking at the
I would think so.
Yeah.
It was fun to kind of go through some of his paperwork. My father just passed away last year, so
wow.
I got a great opportunity to go through paperwork, and I found old lawsuits. I found all kinds of really cool stuff that really tied together the history of him as an entrepreneur.
Wow.
I always wonder why. I always wonder why my father was so cash heavy. He was like, because if you go into bad troubles with the IRS and things like that, they'll take everything you got. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So I always wonder why he was so litigious on what he did with his money, because it took me a while to try to figure that out myself. But that's a good conversation to have.
So for someone who's going to be an entrepreneur himself, that was probably, of course, you were already by this time, but
yeah,
there's a lot of good information there.
It is. You find that entrepreneurs seem to have the ability to tie things in their history and their life together to kind of prove to other entrepreneurs that it's in their blood.
Right.
And so I've got a really good stake. It's been probably the last 10 years of my life that have been really concentrated about doing things like even stand and stretches. Always started something based on community needs, what were going to be important for the city, and trying to find ways to not ever have to go back to work again.
Right, yeah.
And that I've not to interrupt, I've found that out about, I guess, entrepreneurs. I was just actually speaking with Lucas before we went on air, and my wife actually has a couple of ventures or businesses, whatever, that she's currently doing. And speaking with her and other people that have gone, in an entrepreneurial thing, that they have done it either out of necessity or maybe, it's something that they learned because their mom did it out of necessity.
Right.
And that's what happened with her. She learned from her mom because they grew up in a time, like she does seamstress work.
Right.
And she learned because her mom, had to make clothes for the kids.
Right.
And she's just carried it over. That seemed to be the case for you with your dad?
I mean, it's just a part of it. He even when he retired, he still ran a company that did HVAC servicing very lightly, and he had a couple of people that helped him do things. So I don't know if I compared that so much to what I'm doing today, but I can tell you that it does create autonomy. And in a marketplace right now where millennials are coming to the forefront, that transient want and need to be disconnected, to be on your own, to be doing your own thing, to have your goals initiated into what you want to do. I mean, that sometimes makes more sense than big salaries and benefits.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Autonomy is an amazing thing.
Yeah, it does.
He's reminding me of a Seth Godin right now. So.
Seth Godin's pretty awesome. I like him.
That's too much TEDx built into me.
So tell me, what was your first venture? What was your first entrepreneurial venture?
It was Stand and Stretch. It was the Stand and Stretch, the ad agency that's in Columbus now. But you start getting these things and you start remembering, well, there was this one time I worked at a flower shop and Betty Bass Flowers.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And
Still making road.
Yep, that's right. And when I first started working there, I was doing my undergrad, and I worked there for 2.5 years. The first 6 months, I was hired to take on deliveries. So I was a delivery driver for flowers, which was fantastic. You never get this isn't pizza delivery where 1 out of 10 people throw pizza back at you or try to get angry. Everybody loves to see flowers. And the first 6 months, what I realized is I was hired because the driver that was there at that time was a little bit lackadaisical, if you know what I mean. And within the first 6 months, I was running every single delivery and having time to do other things, and that person quit. The next 6 months, I spent that I could in the flower shop, and I started cutting and processing flowers. Before long, I was buying them off the back of trucks. As you kind of coast through closer to the end, I was actually writing payroll, paying taxes. I was the highest paid member on the team.
Nice.
And that was the first time my boss ever said she could take a vacation. So I just knew that I knew that there was something inside of me that was kind of like, well, this looks good. Let me see if I can fix it.
Yeah.
I even have that quoted on my Facebook. I am the one who fixes things. So if you put me in a situation, I'm almost always going to try to make something better, look at a different option, give different perspective. And I think that's what builds entrepreneurs. And also, I would say the not wanting to be a part of any kind of strict corporate policy or large authority.
Right,
That's
exactly.
a big part of it.
What would you say is the biggest key to success for an entrepreneur?
keep it small and lean in the beginning. You never know what's going to happen. At 4 years into my business, I was going fast. We had reached $1 million in sales, and we had full-time people that we paid 100% of their benefits. We had a plan. It was a wellness plan where anybody on my team can go get a shot of B12 once a week.
Wow.
Not everybody did that, but at some point you would look back and go, man, that sounds very, very successful. And I use it now as the beginning of the story of how not to run a business. Back then, we did everything we could to not show profit, to lean out the opportunities, to have to pay tax.
Right.
And really, the biggest opportunities that I missed at that point in time was building a business that was going to scale properly. I have everything in my mind now to think that if we would have done things right, by this time we would have been a $5 million company.
Right.
And so now we've changed the business. We've done some great things, and you can't, and I've spent 2015 managing debt, and I'm talking about the big stuff, like the IRS stuff.
Yeah.
And, when you start dealing with stuff like that and having to work with vendors on payments and you start getting in debt, that's really where that forged entrepreneurial heart is developed. So my word of advice, and we work with new businesses all the time, is to keep it small, keep it nimble. Your market's going to change. It's, nothing you do today will be the same thing you do next year. So that's it.
We're going to go into a break here shortly, but there's a question I want to ask, and I want to see if I'm right. I was recently watching a conversation between two people I know, and one told the other one, "You're not being very professional." And the other one said, "Well, I'm not worried about being professional because none of us are professionals." And I didn't say anything. But what I was thinking was, and is this not correct, that to be a professional, you have to be professional. Like, by being professional, is what leads you to.
Well, there's like and I'll answer with this sort of summary. Everybody gives me a lot of issues with what I wear to work or how I present myself to clients. I don't wear suits. I mean, pretty much what you see today, this is what you get. And it's not important for me to qualify a first impression with things like that to be professional. Our goal is to do some really hard work for our clients and create results. At the end of the day, when they work for us for a period, they go, "Yeah, I don't really care what you look like. Just keep doing what you're doing." And I go, well, that's what, to me, professionalism means. Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of time in corporate America, probably about 8 years, and I don't think that any point in time was I ever given preference over the way I looked from what my output of my job was. And those kind of focuses really help design what professionalism means, right. I believe.
Well, cool. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go to a break.
Cool.
We'll be right back, and we'll talk about some of your current projects.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Come join us every week for Open Mic Thursdays at Fountain City Coffee with your host, Brian Mallard. Registration begins at 6:30. Show runs from 7 to 10. Uptown Columbus, where the vibe is. Timeless Beauty at the Gypsy Cherub, 3760 Woodruff Road, Columbus, Georgia. Class is back in style.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of the show. Special guest, Lucas Shaffer.
Thank you.
So, Lucas, tell me, Tim listed off some things that you were involved in. Let's start off with Stand and Stretch. Give me a little bit about that.
Well, Stand and Stretch was a blog when I first started it. So I had I was working in a really big e-commerce company called Delta Apparel, and they basically managed apparel brands, which led to some of our connections with Under Armour and things like that. But while I was there, it just so happened that the trend of social media started to become very apparent. Some things that were a part of what's going on in social media and digital technologies, I'm actually showing a little bit of my age a little bit. I mean, Facebook wasn't around for me, in earlier days, and I'm glad it wasn't, like in my 20s. I see some of these kids today. But the Stand and Stretch was just about trying to get the right information to the right people, helping small businesses with digital needs. And sure enough, I garnered enough attraction, and then I started getting people to ask me to help them. So in June 2010, started Stand and Stretch full time. I had a 9-month-old baby, just recently married. Wow. And so when I hear an entrepreneur talk about they're not ready to start, I tell them that now is better. But Stand and Stretch is 6 years old now. We're a digital ad agency. We've got 22 people. We serve East Alabama, West Georgia, and we have clients peppered around the United States.
The United States, not just the area. The
That's
United
correct.
States. That's
Los Angeles, Boston, Tampa, Chicago. And I think that's just off the top of my head.
Wow.
And I got, is that 6-month-old baby?
What now?
Is that the 6-month-old baby?
No, that's the new one. That's Broughton.
The new one.
Wow. He's 2.5 years old. So my other one's actually six, about to turn 7 in March.
How many kids do you have overall?
2 kids.
Wow.
2 kids, yeah.
That's great.
The man's got energy that I don't have.
It's been amazing. My wife's really great. She's been a good trooper through the ins and the outs. Everybody enjoys the good times, but it's always the people who endure the tough times that really build bridges and help out in the long run.
Right. So now tell me about some of your other things, your film.
Yeah, Filmaholics.
Yeah.
So I was very proud about participating in a local blog. It was a podcast, and it was also a blog. And we ran about 5 years.
Wow.
I think we hung up our podcast gear about a year and a half ago. Over 150 podcasts. We got about 5,000 visitors a month on our blog. We used some traffic on our podcast. It would come and go, but we had several hundred listeners every time we posted something.
Wow, that's great.
So it was pretty fun. We talked about everything from film to TV to trends. I mean, we had Emmy episodes. We talked about the big stuff that was going on, and also dug a little bit into history and talked about film as a entire world.
Man,
that was fun.
I'll bet. It sounds like a great
one podcast a week for 5 years.
Man,
we missed a couple here and there, but it was our Wednesday night. It was the night.
So what led you out of that?
Well, I think when my primary business started to wane a little bit, I had to shut off a lot of the valves that were taking energy into my other businesses. So that was one of the reasons.
Wow.
I wish we could have kept up with it, but it was a fun thing to do. I enjoyed it.
That's cool. Now, tell me about some of your other projects you have going on, because you got a lot going on.
It's always been this thing to kind of want to get something done and to look into the environment and go, hey, there's something missing.
Right.
One of the other projects that I'm really proud of, which has been sort of the off and on blog, Datterday.com. Mm-hmm. It's basically a daddy blogging site, or once was, and we've got Datterday.com as the domain name, which is pretty unique. We grabbed onto it that early. But if you go to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and look at hashtag Datterday, you'll actually see hundreds of thousands of dads spending time with their kids on Saturday.
Wow.
And so I don't want to say we started that movement, but I can certainly definitely tell you we were early in that. And it was something that I did because as an entrepreneur, you don't have a lot of weekday time to spend with your kids sometimes. Right. And so Saturday was very special. So we just made it even specialer.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You have your fingers in a lot of pies.
Yeah. Yes.
What is your favorite thing that you have going on right now?
So Stand and Stretch. It's my favorite. I think we've last year we started up a beard oil company.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. November's coming up, and we always make about $5,000 to $6,000 in November.
Christmas.
Yeah, and well, Christmas doesn't translate so much as the activity around men's health. That became the bigger key for us. We didn't do a lot. We didn't do a lot in Christmas time, but as you know, that's a heavily marketed consumer time, and ad dollars probably went to guitars and gear for homes and stuff like that for men. You know, that whole market's kind of crushed with advertising. We had a lot of fun. And, you know, the thing was, I got a little sample in the Birchbox for Men, and I was like, what is this? I'll never use it. About 3 or 4 months later, I grabbed it and said, okay, it's Saturday. I put it on, and I was like, wait a minute. My face, it feels great.
Oh, you're going to have to tell me that. I've been looking for some really good beard oil.
Yeah. Well,
That's interesting.
We had fun with it. It went big. We've got like 30,000 likes on our Facebook page. But it does quiet down during the year. We found out that businesses aren't always year-round, and this is definitely one where we turn it down during the rest of the year and pump it up, make a couple extra $1,000 for Christmas.
Wow. It's interesting because I have just recently, within the last couple of years, because I've stayed shaved. I don't really keep a beard, but some of the guys I worked with had beards, and some of the guys downtown around Fountain City, and I had heard of the beard oil, and people like took very, a lot of great care of their beards.
Yeah.
And so that stuff really works though.
My wife would never allow me to have a beard unless I kept it soft with oil every day.
I think that's it. The first time I put it on, I didn't do much, but just made me feel like I got a little extra chicken grease on my face. I called it the saturation point. After about 2 or 3 days, it starts to soak it up. It starts to get a little flowier. You can feel it. It's deeper. It's thick. Like if it falls out all the time. If you have a beard, you're always leaving these little things everywhere. You'll notice that they're like nice and sheen, and they're beautiful. And at the end of the day, if you can get the right scent or the right aroma that fits what you do, I mean, it's what you end up smelling for the morning time. So it was very, very fun. I followed Shark Tank the day we were going to launch the beard oil company. I found out that the beard brand was going to be on Shark Tank the next day. So I rushed our website so that I could say we were there before Shark Tank made it popular. But I saw it coming, and as an entrepreneur, you try to take advantage of situations where trends like that, and men's care became a huge thing. And we spent a lot of time talking about Movember and No Shave November, and so November became our biggest month, and by far. It was the second year where we didn't do anything in the middle, like we're not doing anything right now. Right. But then November comes on, and we're like, here, buy this oil. And it seems like orders just kind of one Facebook ad, and you're going to make a couple $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how, because right now people are already posting, I'm about to put down my shears for No Shave November. And it's all about testicular health and all kinds of health. So there's a lot of stuff going on there.
That's cool.
Marketing with a cause.
Yeah, well, I've always kind of wondered. Have you ever wondered how a month for testicular health came up with a beard?
It's the strangest thing. When you start thinking about how many people are advocating for men's health, you don't find much. It's largely a woman's market, breast cancer.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of things that are out there for that. And when you look at men's health, you don't have sort of that. We kind of carried the wave over with the new shave people. What was it, the Dollar Shave Club? You started seeing a lot of awareness of beards and things like that around that time. And I don't know. I think that when I look out there, I don't see a lot of people going, where's prostate health? Where's that for men? Right. Instead of these smaller, secular, monthly type things.
Now, I usually ask this of like musicians or whatever, but it goes for everybody. And actually, for an entrepreneur, it's even more important, I believe, or at least as important. 5 years from now, where would you like to see yourself?
So I'm by default a planner. Mm-hmm. I want to see my business approaching $10 million, and I want to see a diversity of employment at our company. I want to see a larger course plotted. We live in a great area, great neighborhood. I want to continue to stay there. I want to broaden my friends across multiple industries and continue to try to become a candle for cultural issues that we have in Columbus.
All right.
I've been participating a lot more with minority groups, spending time listening to business needs and focusing on a venture coming up that is all about general incubation and the process in which we can ignite the minority scene for small business growth and health, really.
Very cool. I'll tell you what, we're going to shortly here go to a commercial. One other thing I want to ask. We were talking before we started the thing about, Columbus as a town, as a city. Like, people say there's nothing to do here. We had this long conversation. How would you suggest that people could help Columbus grow across the board?
I don't want to be just an echo of past, but supporting local businesses. Yeah. This chain of events that we live in right now there's not enough support for our local businesses, including people aware of what services and offers are out there.
Right.
We have over 6,700 business licenses in Muskogee County. The result is about 75% of our entire population is employed by small business. Yet we spend more time focused on the big business aspect like Aflac and TSIS.
Right.
So until we can generate enough awareness to put small businesses as a highlight of an economic development model, we can't be prosperous as a city.
Right.
So that's
very well said.
Very well said.
We've been trying to push that the past couple of weeks.
Nice.
Support your local business.
It's one of the purposes of this show, actually.
It's a particular nature. If you start thinking about being an entrepreneur, you start counting the...
Yes, you can hear the thunder going off, guys.
We're talking about the right subject. So I was going to say 6,700 businesses, right? And you got to understand that over half of them won't make it through their first year.
Right.
So when you look at what's our attrition rate for small business, it's roughly 85%.
Wow.
Right. And that's people still wanting to be in business, so there's new licenses being applied for.
Right.
So people want to be in small business, but when they go to that first lump, when they go to that first financial issue, when they go to that first economic downturn, they don't have people to protect them from those scenarios, and sometimes it's about learning it, but the other side is I don't think we do what we can as a community to support that.
Very cool. Tim, let's go to a commercial, I reckon, roll the footage, and we'll got some more to say about this when we come back.
Hello, I'm Catherine Childry with Let's Vocalize. For over 35 years, I've coached vocalists and groups privately. I also perform vocal workshops training choirs. I'd love the opportunity to show you how direction, discipline, vocal health care, and regular practice can drastically improve you, your group, or your choir's performance. Call me at 706-536-6123 or visit us online at www.letsvocalize.com. I'd love to help you offer your best gift.
Yes, Toddy, the chocolate malt in a can.
It's so good hot. It's so good cold.
It hits the spot with young and old.
Yes, toddy pleases everybody. Delicious chocolate malted toddy, made with rich, real milk, not powdered milk.
So come and get it, everybody. It's time to drink your chocolate toddy.
Delicious.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of the show. Special guest, Lucas Shaffer. So, Lucas, what would you say is the most important thing to keep an entrepreneurial enterprise going? What the most important thing for the entrepreneur? Also, when do you think that an entrepreneur should decide that it's time to give it up, that they just don't have it in their blood?
I'd like to think that that's not an option for some people. I think in some cases you start to look at life in two different bubbles. I'm willing to work for somebody else and accept that that's the best I can do,
right, or
I can try to do something on my own and watch either the failure or the growth from that moment to come. I think we see a lot of spinoff of Shark Tank and The Profit and those kind of shows representing payoffs and short-term, profits or selling the business. It's very unfortunate for an entrepreneur to go into the idea of being an entrepreneur and not knowing that it's all about the long game.
Right.
Even if you keep a lean business and keep it going, there's opportunities that come around every corner, and there's that moment where you feel like if I just don't push through this, there's something better on the other side.
I have a question about the lean thing.
Mm-hmm.
Lean is obviously a popular word amongst companies.
Right.
How do you figure that you? How can you tell when you are healthily lean as opposed to too lean?
Right. I don't think you can be too lean, but I understand what you're saying. The operating costs generally are conceived from things that are necessities for business. A lean business is something that's not wasting a lot of money on wants in the business.
Right.
So once you create a goal pattern and say, look, I know we need to market, because this is the place where most entrepreneurs fall apart. Mm-hmm. We need to spend dollars on marketing our services. We need to make sure we're using the best software. We need to do a better job with our accounting. And then there's the wants, I want to wrap my truck with my logo.
Right. Right.
Or I want to have, that one billboard, and you spend all of your capital, going into a period on things like that. Sometimes you need to focus on creating a good plan, looking at where opportunities may lie. Most small businesses suffer from the friends and family plateau. Mm-hmm. They get started and they roughly balance out their success over the early stages of their business, which normally is consumed of about 90% of friends and family.
Yeah.
It takes about a year or two to burn through those. I call that the 2-year hump. Once you've serviced all of your friends with products or whatever your service is, you're suddenly faced with, I got to get people who don't know who I am to buy my services. And that truly is something that needs to start in the very beginning.
Yeah.
If you focus on keeping your business lean in the very beginning, like that first moment, mm-hmm. and you start saying, I got the friends and family thing. Thank you for buying our service. I'm not going to get overhyped about that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go get a new customer today that I don't know. And in that process, you can run with it.
Cool. May have to...
No, we're fine right now, guys. We're in the middle of a thunderstorm right now, and my lights
the
are
lights
flickering.
Okay, so that leads us into the marketing. How do you think most people mess themselves up with marketing, and what do you think is the best marketing strategy?
Well, it comes down to just establishing a budget of what's necessary. Back to the lean aspect. Back to the not overspending, not putting yourself on the line. Most marketing comes with contracts, mm-hmm. and those marketing companies don't care whether or not you're going to have a soft summer and not be able to pay that $500 a month. So the industry standard is to get a good set of business cards, to start putting together some handheld marketing print material.
Right.
Get some postcards. A handwritten postcard saves the day. I don't care what it is. Handwrite a postcard, send it to your last customer, and say, "Man, we really appreciate what using us." Once you get past that, the question normally is, how much should I be spending on my marketing? Mm-hmm. And that's depends on a lot of things, but I always talk about putting aside $500 a month and chopping that up into different needs, if that's available for you. Stand and Stretch is basically an ad agency that specializes in digital. So we've utilized everything from outdoor to radio to video creation, execution on local channels, and really just kind of involved ourselves in getting what's best for the client.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's get everything into one box. This is a part of the show where I like to consolidate. So just a nice little list of all the places they can find you and for the purposes they might need.
Well, that's cool. So my primary email is lucas@standandstretch.com. You can go visit our standandstretch.com website and see information about me. I'm on Facebook. I generally accept anybody, but I've learned how to use the Facebook list, so not everybody sees all my posts. I'm on Twitter at Lucas L. Shaffer. I'm on Instagram, Lucas L. Shaffer. You can go to my personal website, lucaslshaffer.com. I pretty much branded Lucas L. Shaffer across all mediums, so you can find me on just copying that into some other medium, and I'm there. So pretty much it.
But would the website be the main jumping off place to find the links to where?
The LucasLShaffer.com is kind of my mission statement on being Lucas Shaffer. It's a picture of the things that are successful, pictures of pictures, and a running blog about being a entrepreneur. So that doesn't really fold into Stand and Stretch a lot, but at the end of the day, it's a great picture of who I am as a person instead of me as a representative for one of my companies.
Right. Now, before we go to the last part, is there any other of your things that you would like to talk about or like to put out there that we have not covered yet?
That's a great question. I think there's always an opportunity to talk about our city, Columbus, when it comes to understanding the diverse culture sets. We start to get into the understanding of what business represents, to what business is out there that represents to Stand and Stretch. But more along the lines is that we see a lot of stuff going on right now in the news media. Right. We've helped out with the Back Columbus Blue campaign, trying to inherit a cultural need of just sheer understanding. Right. Recently, I got to be get to go to the Right Symposium, which not everybody understands that, especially if you're white. Right. The key thing is at that moment in that forum, I really got a sense that there's a lot more going on in our city that's undiscovered raw material. Right. When you start to see that there's been so much taken for face value, things like our Whitewater, things like Uptown, and you see it, but as soon as you feel it, it's a little different than what's been told you to that story. And I think we have that same issue with some of the other cultural opportunities, considering the minority groups in Columbus. And those to me are kind of some of my next venture stances, is trying to develop relationships with organizations that promote citywide health and creating opportunities.
Very cool. Tim, anything?
No, actually, I've been sitting here playing with while these guys are going on the interview, and you know what? I'm going to pull up Lucas's website, and just so he can give a shout out to his team. How's that?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, my team. I'll send them the link. They'll enjoy that. I spend time talking about them.
Of course, is Lucas and his web and art director, so forth and so on, as graphic artist. But once again, that would be Lucas L. Shaffer. Is that Stand and Stretch?
StandandStretch.com.
And so you guys definitely want to go that. It's loading up. It'll just give you a little site there, but it is definitely a place you want to go. Give you all the links, all the different places you want to go to, the tips, the blogs.
That's right.
And
we have fun. We do a lot of fun stuff.
And I love watching this. I'm just thinking, I would love to do that. But nope, that's about it. Lucas, thank you very much for coming.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
One quick question before we head out. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
Don't take money. Stay away from banks. The worst thing you can do is have somebody give you money for something. And if you're not selling your business, you should only take money if you're selling your business. I'm sorry. Many entrepreneurial mistakes come from taking money out of the bank. A handful of entrepreneurs that in my peer group have failed or bankrupt because they borrowed money too early in the business for inconspicuous reasons. And you should never start a business on a loan.
Right.
It's the scariest thing about what Shark Tank represents. I got a good idea, but I don't have sales. Will you give me money so I can go get sales? And the real world doesn't work like that. Right. You have to have sales to create value. And if you're not willing to go out there and drive your business to everybody's doorstep and ring the doorbell and take the humility that it does take to do something like that, then no bank's going to give you money anyways. The scary thing is you might walk in with too much good credit and personal assets, and a bank will give you $250,000, and then you don't create sales. Well, then the bank owns the collateral, the assets on the loan, which is where I would say a large part of early stage ventures end up going.
Wow. Good information. Great information.
Yeah, it's dangerous. Don't take money. Go make it. And learn how to live your business. Learn how to live your life at a minimum. I've had some financial headaches over the past 2 or 3 years. I tell you, not only leaned out my business, but I've leaned out my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I agree. That's exactly what we're in the process of doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And once you find that, I always ask, I treat all of my team members as aspiring entrepreneurs. You know, when I talk to them, I go, so what do you need to survive? And you know, and the questions are always so crazy, but culturally, we've trained everybody to want and need the things that I don't think are as important, considering insurance, benefits. Mm-hmm. I think that if you work with your doctor, you work with all these things, you get on a major medical and not a preventative thing, you can actually offset a lot of costs during the year, but you don't learn that until you try. Right. And so when people come to work for me, they've got a list of things that I look at them and I go, yeah, those are cool stuff. I've had those before. I don't think they mean what you think they mean, you know, because even though we have insurance today, we now buy our own insurance through a very creative process. And the key thing is you don't learn that until you jump out of the bucket of where everybody else is and start experiencing life to what's needed instead of what's wanted.
Right.
And that's a tough place.
And that actually spreads out through your entire life. I mean,
well, you know, I am getting older. That's it's.
I mean, all aspects of your life.
No, I think so. I hope I tell a story when I go speak to some of the businesses for small business help and things like that, and I always talk about my ability to earn has outweighed my ability to save. So I'm a earner. I can go make money, but I'm the worst person to try to take that money and have a lucrative saving career. Right. If we ever needed something, I always in the past I always said, well, I need to go make a few more sales because we need that thing.
Right.
And now capacity is looking at me like I can't do that anymore. So a lot of our financial headaches were because we weren't saving money appropriately. Right. And now I've got my wife involved in my financials, and she's one of the most frugal people.
Good one to have.
And she literally whops me on the head when she sees like a $1.99 charge in my account for a in-app purchase on a mobile game that I play. You know, it's so simple. You just think that $2, but no, she's been good. She's part of the reason we're healthier in the past 2 years.
Well, that's cool. Well, Lucas, I appreciate you coming on the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks. I enjoyed it.
And I would actually very much like to have you on again sometime in the future because he has a lot to talk about. Yep. Anything else, Tim?
Nope.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Tim.
Just hoping I can get through this thunderstorm.
Yeah, we're going to get out of here before the lights go out. Until next time, I'm your host, Brian Mallard, for the show. Tim,
thanks,
over there,
guys. Love you.
Appreciate it.